Hello everyone, welcome to another live, the second one here in my channel on YouTube. The first one was 2 weeks ago maybe, and it was a little bit disastrous. Well, not totally disastrous. Well, no, it was totally disastrous. So to begin with, my computer completely froze. It was gone for a while, and then then I didn't realize that I had my bit rate wrong, my resolution wrong. OBS was not behaving, so everything was blurry and horrible. And I didn't realize until somebody told me in the chat, which was way after. So you live, you learn. There you go. So hopefully today it will be an improvement. Let me just make sure that I am watching the chat. Another thing that went wrong last time as well, because the chat was over there. I mean, OBS was just not behaving. It really wasn't. I couldn't really log into my Google account, because you can log in now on OBS, to your YouTube and all that. To be honest, that still hasn't worked very well, but at least I found a way to make it work enough. And yeah, so I couldn't really keep up with the chat very well, but now I'm gonna keep up with the chat because it's right here. Okay, so hello. If you want to say hello, please join the chat, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it. And as you may have seen, or may not have seen, or maybe you're just dropping by, scrolling by, finding things in this beautiful Thursday evening, at least here in the UK, in London, where I'm based, then what I'm doing today is studying for the AWS Developer Associate exam. So this is an exam that you take to get a certification, official certification from AWS. Full disclosure, I work for AWS. I'm a developer advocate. But what happened was this weekend, I had plans, but then my plans changed. Unfortunately, my partner had a death in the family, so he's not going to be coming down to see me, which means that suddenly our plans are foiled. So I don't have anything to do suddenly. So that means that I decided to make plans for myself. And when that happens, like it happened last year, I just out of a sudden decide to register for an certification exam. I don't know. The nerd in me takes over. So no, why would I spend the morning sleeping too late and all that when I can have a certification? So yeah, so that's what I did. I booked a certification exam, and I picked the Developer Associate because it's one that I've been meaning to do for a while. I do have other certificates that I need to renew because they all expire. All the AWS certifications that I have expire in January 2025, end of January. So I actually should get going recertifying for those. But no, I want the new stuff. So I'm gonna try to get the Developer Associate this Saturday morning. So I just booked it last night. So hopefully I'll pass. I did that last time as well when I sat down for I think it was the SA Pro, the last one. I just booked and went for it instead of, hyping it up for months and psyching myself out, studying every single source material, whatever. I just go for it because I feel like even if you fail, then it's still like a good, that's it. It's training right there, right? You're doing it and you're failing and you learned how the exam goes. And then you have a window of time when you cannot take it on purpose, so it's not too fresh in your head. But it's not that long. The first time, I forgot how long it is. I think it's like 2 weeks. Then if you don't pass again, then you have to wait like 3 months or something to take it again. Something like that. I don't know. But, I feel like either way, I just would rather go and try with what I know and with luck. And then hopefully those two combined get me to pass. However, for this one, I thought I would at least study a little bit. So, and then I thought, what's the best way to force me to study? Well, to do it live. So here we are. So I'm gonna be studying live, and the way I'm gonna do it is by using this really cool website that I love, actually, called Tutorials Dojo. So let me show you. So this is Tutorials Dojo. I'm already there on the quiz, but actually let me show you then. Tutorials Dojo here. Let me check my resolution learning from last time. I think my resolution looks okay. It's a little bit blurry still. I don't know what is up with this. Still blurry, actually. Oh, kinda. Oh, it adjusted. Is it just me, or is it? I mean, I need people to tell me, because my computer, I cannot tell. It started looking a bit blurry, but then it kind of adjusted. So maybe it's okay. Anyway, you guys tell me. So yeah, this is Tutorials Dojo. It's really cool. As you can see here, they always got like sales. There's always a sale going on. They got all kinds of practice exams, not just AWS, Azure, GCP. And I really love it. I actually don't use it to study for the exams as I should. I use it, nerdy me, like before going to sleep, I go over, some stuff. For me, it's like gamified learning. It's not gaming. It's not really gamified because it is actually exams. They have like video courses and stuff, but I actually never really watched them. I haven't tried it, so I don't know if they're good. But yeah, I love the mock exams, and there's so many. So I usually like just pick one, and then kind of I read other books, but then I kind of do 3 questions, 3 or 4 before going to sleep. I know, I'm really nerdy. So yeah, I love them. Although I haven't actually used them like for what they are meant to, for the purpose of studying for the exam. So this is the first time I'm actually gonna go, I'm gonna pick an exam, or a mock exam, and I'm gonna study for that certification ahead of doing the certification, not just as a fun read. So that's what I'm doing. So this is the AWS Certified Developers Associate. I've no idea in terms of scope. I can guess, I've heard about it, of course, many times, even when I'm talking to people in TNC, the Training Certification Department, and I host a lot of stuff on the AWS channels, as well, like do videos and all that, live stream, whatnot. So yeah, I know about the certifications, but like I don't know in detail. I'm not like part of the Training Certification Department. So I just going by the title, it's kind of obvious, Developer Associate, so I feel like it's I wouldn't say entry level, because I don't think there's a Developer Pro. Actually, I'm pretty sure there isn't. There isn't a Developer Pro. So it is developer themed AWS examination, but it is associate because I think they mean you're not gonna go that deep into it. So for example, you may find a lot of stuff about DynamoDB, a NoSQL database in AWS. And there may be questions about, how do you use it, and how do you maybe even call the API from code. But it's not gonna go down to the level of you must know it inside out and every quirk about DynamoDB. It's more like on the functional level. That's kind of what the associate, I think, means here. So anyway, I think what I'm gonna do is start the quiz. The thing about these exams though is that they go on forever. So when I do these exams, I kind of switch off halfway through, and that is my main problem. Even it's not even bad luck or necessarily lack of knowledge. It's literally because my attention span just goes halfway through. It's like too much, too boring, I love it as bite-sized stuff. It excites me, like, like I said, before going to sleep, answer a few questions, but not like sitting for 2 hours straight doing this. Too much. So I'd rather watch a movie or play a game. So I'm not probably gonna go through the whole thing, because also I'm gonna be here till freaking 1 a.m. Look, let's see how many questions. It's 65 questions. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get through it, right? And when time's up, or when I start getting really sleepy, or gotta do other things, then I'm gonna go. And maybe continue tomorrow, right? I only have tomorrow anyway, because now I booked it for Saturday morning. So I only have today and tomorrow to study for it. So yeah, maybe I'll just come back and continue this tomorrow. I really would love if anybody joins, if you could tell me how is the resolution and the image. So here it's telling me the stream's current bit rate is 30 megabits or 30,000 kbps. It's higher than the recommended bit rate. We recommend they use a stream bit rate of 6,000. Bloody hell, it wants me to really downgrade my bit rate. Is that a good thing? I don't want to do anything unless, look, I maximize my window and it looks blurry. Then I wait a little bit, then it's not, oh my God, this is driving me crazy. Stream health, excellent. So, okay, 6,800. Let's see. I'm gonna follow what YouTube's saying, while I think people are still joining anyway. But okay, I don't know if I can change it halfway. Can I change it halfway? Let's see. Stream. No, I cannot. As expected. Can I? Stream. Output. Oh, I can. Maybe. Okay, let's try this. Oh! Am I about to make things really bad? Oh! Did I disconnect? Hello? Oh, I disconnected. No, I didn't. Okay. Yay! Okay, let's see. Wow, this looks pretty crap to me. Watching myself here on another monitor. Oh! It did fix the problem. Thank you, YouTube. Your recommendation was on point. Well, I'm never touching that setting ever again. Oh, but then it went blurry again. I don't know. Look, you guys tell me, right? Because I don't know. Right. So, question 1. Are we ready for this? Oh my God. I may be about to embarrass myself. Okay, let's do it. So yeah, the way it works, we just go through the questions and then we don't need to pause, I think, because they have like timed mode and review mode. So I think if you're on time mode, you pause, and it can flag for review. So this is just like the real exam experience. If you haven't taken the exam, you can flag for review, so you can go on, and then at the end, before you submit the final thing, you can review anything that you flagged. I'm not gonna use that right now. Okay. Oh my God, this is gonna be tough on my confidence if I start getting all of this wrong, but whatever, I don't care. Right, so question 1, category CDA, not sure what that means, but development with AWS services. Thought that was the theme anyway. A developer uses AWS SAM templates to deploy a serverless application. I'll explain what that is in a second. He needs to embed the application from the AWS serverless application repository or from an S3 bucket as a nested application. Bit weird, this whole thing, but whatever. Which of the following resource type is the most suitable one that the developer should use? And here's a hint, by the way, especially with AWS certificates, whatever, exams. Always pay attention to the key point of the question, right? Because sometimes the answers could be right, like there could be more than one that's actually right, but it's not right in the context of the thing that you are meant to optimize for, right? What do I mean by that? Suitable, it's even capital letters, right? So for example, there could be different answers that work, but one may not be suitable for this scenario, even though it will be correct. You know, it's not something that is made up, for example, right? Others, for example, they will say, what will be the most cost-effective way of doing this? So you could have answers that, yeah, that will work, but that's not more cost-effective than that. So the way that I do that, you know, that you train your brain for these examinations is read the question and then go, okay, suitability, that's the point. Oh, cost-effectiveness, that's the point. Or, you know, always keep that in your head, like that's your starting point. Okay. So, right, SAM, AWS SAM. if you don't know what SAM is, it's a way for you to develop serverless applications on your computer. So you can use SAM CLI, which will help you put together infrastructure as code. So you don't have to go on the AWS console and clicky and start creating virtual servers, Lambdas or whatever. You can do that in code, which is repeatable and good because you can audit and it can be also code reviewed and all that for security and all that through SecOps. So it's code that will generate infrastructure as code, and SAM is a flavor of that. Sits on top of CloudFormation, which is really the AWS infrastructure as code. In fact, it is the only one, but then you have other solutions like SAM, like CDK that sit on top of that as an abstraction. But behind the scenes, they compile, if you will, to CloudFormation. So SAM is one of those, but SAM specialized into serverless, right, stuff. So you do serverless things like declaring Lambdas or DynamoDB or Amazon S3, so those are the things that SAM are good at. And then with SAM, you can also run things locally. So have like a local development environment by running like on the CLI. So, the command prompt, you can go like SAM local and then start your local environment. Now, what's happening here is that the developer wants to embed an application into this SAM template. So this is a concept of almost like having sub applications. Like if you program in different languages, most of them will have the concept of modules, right? Like Python, JavaScript as well, whatever. So for example, in Python, you can import modules. Those are like libraries, right? So kind of like it's like that, but on an application level. So you have like a little RESTful API thing that it already exists or that you picked out as a sample from somewhere, and then like the serverless application repository, and you just want to bring that over as a subset of whatever else that you got going, right? So it's just asking what is the best way to do this. So yeah, we're gonna choose, oh my God, I hope I'm right. So the options here are AWS serverless function. No, that's how you declare like Lambda functions, right? In this template, in this infrastructure as code template. Layer version, that's how you deal with layers in Lambdas, which is just libraries, much kind of like the module thing I just said, kind of the same as well in Lambda. You can just add these libraries that are ready to be used, and you add them to layers. So Lambda can always pull in that code whenever it needs it. API, no, that's for API gateway. So application. So you can declare a serverless application and then just configure all the details for it. Let's see if I'm right. Yes, thank you. Confidence level. You know what I should do? Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. Although I don't have that much time, but maybe I can do that other times if I do another stream of studying for exams like this. If you guys like it, let me know, right? And I'm thinking maybe I can have like a confidence meter, and every time I get it right, it goes up. Every time I get it wrong, it goes down. Hey, I like that idea. Okay, so a service application can include one or more nested applications. You can deploy a nested application as a standalone artifact or as a component. Can you see this, or should I? There you go. Or as a component of a large application. As serverless architectures grow, common patterns emerge in which the same components are defined in multiple application templates. You can now separate out common patterns as dedicated applications and then nest them as part of new or existing application templates. So a lot of words to say pretty much what I was saying. So you can just have this kind of subsets of things that are ready, so nested applications that come in almost like as modules. Just put it there in your template and they're ready to go, right? And then you can code whatever else that you need. With nested applications, you can stay more focused on the business logic that's unique to your application. To define a nested application, your serverless application, you use the AWS serverless application resource type. Right? That's just syntax. AWS serverless function is incorrect because this resource describes configuration information for creating a Lambda function. That's what I thought. You can describe an event source that you want to attach to Lambda function, such as S3, DynamoDB streams, Kinesis. That just means like Lambda can react to triggers. So say you upload something to S3 where you can store, say, images, for example. Once you upload your image there, then you can trigger Lambda to say, hey, an image has been uploaded, run some code, right? That's what that means. Layer version is incorrect because this resource type creates a Lambda layer version that contains library or runtime code that's needed by a Lambda function. When a serverless layer function is transformed, AWS SAM also transforms the logical ID of the resource so that old layer versions aren't automatically deleted by CloudFormation. I just said CloudFormation is the actual native infrastructure as code in AWS. When the resource is updated, I never know if I should pronounce it resource or resource. I've heard people pronouncing it either way. AWS Serverless API is incorrect because the resource type describes an API. I feel posture saying resource for some reason, but that's wrong, right? It's resource. Describes an API gateway resource. It's useful for advanced use cases where you want full control and flexibility when you want to configure APIs. For most scenarios, it is recommended that you create APIs by specifying this resource type as an event source of your serverless function resource. A lot of words. That just means API gateway pattern. So there is Amazon API gateway. So this is where you can centralize access to your APIs. It's not just, what did it say here? Full control and flexibility. It's a bit more than that. It's also to do, for example, with security, right? You're creating a wall between your users and your API, and you can centralize that security in one place. Also observability. So you got that one place where you can see what's going on, right, with your APIs. Then yes, full control, but not just in terms of detailed, because you have a lot of stuff that you can control. So not just in terms of breadth of options, but also in terms of being able to control what happens. So you want to take an API down, you can do it very quickly. You want to do some A/B testing, you can do it. You want to do some canary release or something. So, you know, there's a lot of options as well that come with that. What's really cool about Tutorials Dojo is that it has these reference links at the bottom. So as you can see, actually, it's not just that. That's what I love about it. Every time you do you select an you submit the answer for a question, you get a full explanation like this, whether it's correct or incorrect. And then for each one of these options, you get the explanation of why it's not that option, which is so good, because sometimes it's not very clear, like, but why not that? So it's not like you're learning one thing, you're learning multiple things every time you do like this one question. That's what I love about Tutorials Dojo. And then it has links to documentation. This is official AWS documentation or other things. It also has like diagrams and stuff. Sometimes it goes actually quite deep into it. So it's fantastic. I love it. Right. Save and next. Did well there. There you go. We're on question number 2. Ooh, let's see. A developer is building a photo sharing application that automatically enhances images uploaded by users to Amazon S3. Okay. When a user uploads an image, its S3 path is sent to an image processing application hosted on AWS Lambda. So that's the trigger thing, right? That I was talking about. The Lambda function applies the selected filter to the image and stores it back to S3. Got some Instagram thing going on here. If the upload is successful, the application will return a prompt telling the user that the request has been accepted. Return a prompt. I guess too much generative AI in my head. That's not what they mean, of course. They mean like asking the user something. The entire processing typically takes, I guess they mean a notification. How weird to say a prompt. The entire processing typically takes an average of 5 minutes to complete, which causes the application to become unresponsive. Right. So what's happening here is that we are doing something that should be asynchronous synchronously, right? If that doesn't make sense to you, imagine like you're browsing a website and then it needs to write something to a database, but instead of just, oh, I'm gonna go and write that, but let you continue clicking your mouse, You just said, no, you can't click anything else now until I'm done. So you kind of have the start and stop experience, right? Studying. So this writing to this database could have been done asynchronously, which means that your mouse will still continue working because that process, where the CPU is processing stuff in that process is not blocked. So things can continue happening all at the same time. Now, actually, all at the same time can be a bit of a computer illusion, depending, because multi-threading, within the same process doesn't mean that you are doing things in parallel unless you have multiple CPUs or multiple cores, and the application supports the multi-cores as well. It's not just having the multi-cores, the software you're running has to support that. But it's just kind of sharing CPU time. So it's like, I'm gonna do a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that, a little bit of that. But it's so fast that it looks like multiple things, right? But anyway, so what the problem is here is that, yeah, this is something that could be done asynchronously, since the user is even kind of like notified, once this is done, the processing of the image. But right now we're kind of stopping the user and say, wait a minute. And of course, a minute becomes 5. Okay. Which of the following is the most suitable and cost-effective option which will prevent the application from becoming unresponsive or being unresponsive? Okay. So remember, this is the way we approach these exams. What are we focusing on? Cost-effective. Suitable? Yeah. Okay. Secondary, because obviously it needs to be, but cost-effective is the key. So, okay, what's cost-effective here? Configure the application to asynchronously process the requests and use the default invocation type of the Lambda function. Okay, that could be an option. Use AWS Serverless Application Model, SAM, to allow asynchronous requests to your Lambda function. SAM has nothing to do with this. SAM is about provisioning the serverless resources like your Lambda and stuff, right, on AWS. It's creating the infrastructure. So nothing to do with the runtime of the application. Configure the application to asynchronously process the requests and change the invocation type of the Lambda function to event. Use a combination of Lambda and step functions to orchestrate service components and asynchronously process requests. Now, step functions, it's like a workflow service in AWS. Super useful, super easy to use, incredibly powerful. But remember, this is what I'm saying is good to keep in mind, the main point of the question. Cost effective. So if we use Lambda and now we introduce step functions, we have two things that will cost us money, two codes to maintain, right? Even if you're not doing code and step functions because there is a visual drag and drop, two things that you gotta actually use and maintain and keep track of the costs, keep track of the observability, monitoring, security, and all that kind of stuff. Not that suitable as a solution, although it will work, but definitely not as cost effective, right? Because we're introducing things here. And step functions also, well, it has two different cost models depending on the type of workflow you're doing, but the most common one would be standard mode on step functions, which will charge per transition. So every time on that workflow, so you go, oh, if it's this, do that, then do that, then do that. Oh, if it's this, do that, not this. So every time you do that, it's costing money. So you will have to do a few of those to get this workflow going, right? With the image and invoking the Lambda and coming back and maybe checking things and doing error checking. So no. So it's between this one and this one. Now they're very similar, so that's another hint that that's probably the right answer. It's just which variation of it is the right one. That usually goes that way, but also they could try to trick you. So I wouldn't say 100% always this is true, but yeah, likely that when there's something that two questions, maybe three, that start the same but only have a different ending, most likely the answer is in one of them. So that can help you with your educated guesses if you're a bit at a loss. So really the difference between them is, does the default invocation type of Lambda is asynchronous or synchronous? Because if it is asynchronous, then we use the default invocation type. But if you need to change it, then the other option is changing it to the invocation type of event. And I think it's this one. Should we see it? Oh, nervous. Please tell me if I'm correct. Yes. Okay. So the default invocation type of Lambda is trigger. Remember what I just said. Like if S3, if I upload something to S3 like an image, which is actually the scenario here, it will trigger Lambda because it's in that mode, and then it will synchronously go through the code and go back, right? That's that mode. Now the event mode is where it will actually read from a queue. So let's read. AWS Lambda supports synchronous and asynchronous invocation. You can control the invocation type only when you invoke a Lambda function, referred to as on-demand invocation. The following examples illustrate on-demand invocations. Your custom application invokes a Lambda function. You manually invoke a Lambda function, for example, using the AWS CLI for testing purposes. In both cases, you invoke a Lambda function using the invoke operation, and you can specify the invocation types as synchronous or asynchronous. By the way, something that always threw me off with the English word invoke is that it's got a K when you do the verb, but then it's a C when you're using the noun. When you use AWS services as a trigger, the invocation type is predetermined for each service. You have no control over the invocation type that these event sources use when they invoke your Lambda function. In the invoke API, you have 3 options to choose from for the invocation type. Request response, invoke the function synchronously, keep the connection open until the function returns a response or timeout. The API response includes the function response and additional data. And I think the timeout of Lambda is 900 milliseconds. What? No, that's not right. 900 seconds? Yeah, I forgot. It's not. I remember the number, but I don't remember the unit. No, okay, that would be ridiculous. 900 milliseconds. I think it's wait, how much is 900 seconds? No, 900 seconds. What am I talking about? Yes, 900 milliseconds. Should we check? Should we ask Amazon Q? No, wait. Let's just. Oh my God, I clicked on things. Oh, there you go. Oh, I was recording content before this. So wait, let's get out. I was recording my next TikTok. Actually, I don't need to get out anyway. Screw it. All right, where is Q? Chat GPT. Amazon flavor. Right. So yeah, but Q. The thing is, yeah, like ChatGPT or whatever. You know, it's an AI system. In case you don't know what Amazon Q is, sits on your ID. But it's trained on AWS data and all that, right? So, you know, on all these years of documentation and internal knowledge, internal databases, so he knows a lot about AWS. So I like asking Amazon Q about AWS. What was I gonna ask? Oh, what is the timeout limit of Lambda? I think it's 900 milliseconds. Am I talking crap? Come on. Sometimes it would do that, especially if the credentials, you know, is revalidating credentials and all that. I haven't used Q in this machine for a while. No, not 15 minutes. Oh wait, what am I talking about? Yeah, 15 minutes, yes. 900 seconds, I was right! Why was I thinking seconds? Of course it is 15 minutes, I knew that. What? I psyched myself out. But yeah, 15 minutes is 900 seconds. Learn something new every day. There you go. So, okay. Event. Invoke the function asynchronously. Send events that fail multiple times to the function's that letter queue if it's configured. The API response only includes a status code. So if Lambda cannot resolve something, you have to configure that letter queue. If you're not too familiar with queues and stuff, I can cover that another time. But pretty much queues is where you're gonna add stuff to be processed, and then you need to configure something. Could be Lambda, could be ECS, could be just a virtual machine like EC2, to then process it, to keep picking the message, processing, running through some code, and then hopefully going, sure, that's process, bye, take away from the queue, next thing, right? But if it fails, it puts it back in the queue to try again up to a certain number of times, which you need to decide, right? So that's, you need to configure your queue. Oh, try 3 times, try just once, or, you know, don't even try, retry it, you know, just discard it. But then if you discard it completely, you can't tell what happened, for example, or you can give the event a second chance. Maybe it was like an abnormal thing that happened, you know, and it's worth trying again. Say the internet connection went down. That's an ephemeral problem, right? It's not a permanent problem. So when the internet connection is up again, maybe it's worth trying again. So you want to save the message. That's what that letter queue is about. Just saving messages that have failed for later or for your inspection, right, and monitoring. The API response only includes a status code, okay? Dry run, validate parameter values and verify that the user or row has permission to invoke the function. So this is to test, right? Really good for testers to know this one. By configuring the application to asynchronously process requests by changing the invocation type of the Lambda function to event, the function can run in the background without blocking the main application. When the processing is complete, Lambda can store it back to S3 and trigger another event, such as notification to the user that the image is ready. Oh, I did shoulders at the gym today, like upper body. And when I do that, I kind of get this thing right here in my shoulder. And I have to keep doing this. So if you see me doing this, it's because I need someone to give me a massage. Right. Hence, the correct answer is to configure the application to asynchronously process the requests and change the invocation type of the Lambda function to event. Configuring the, let's look at the other answers and see why they're wrong. Configuring the application to asynchronously process the requests and use the default invocation type of Lambda function is incorrect because this will invoke your Lambda function synchronously. The default invocation type is request response, which invokes the function synchronously and keeps the connection open until the function returns a response or times out, 15 minutes or 900 seconds. We'll never forget that now. Using AWS Serverless Application Model, AWS SAM, which has a cute mascot, it's like a squirrel, to allow asynchronous requests to your Lambda function is incorrect because SAM is just an open source framework that you can use to build serverless applications on AWS. I forgot to mention it is open source, so you can go on GitHub and check it out. Using a combination of Lambda and step functions to orchestrate service components and asynchronously process the requests is incorrect because the AWS step function service just lets you coordinate multiple AWS services into serverless workflows so you can build and update apps quickly. Although this can be a valid solution, it's what I was talking about, it's not cost effective since the application does not have a lot of components to orchestrate. Lambda functions can effectively meet the requirements in the scenario without using step functions by processing the requests asynchronously. More references. Oh, look, there's a cheat sheet. Let's open it. Let's have a look. Oh, it's like an article. I thought it was like an info, how do you call those things? Infosplainer, whatever it is. Okay. Cool. There you go. Native supporting the following languages. Yes. I wonder how up to date it is. Well, it should be up to date. They should keep it up to date. When I got the exam, I actually had the Developer Associate one from Tutorials Dojo, but I had never opened it. And then I thought, oh, I need to update it because now there's a new version. And apparently there's a new version coming soon as well, by the way. So it's a good time to take the exam before it changes. So I got the update and apparently just updated everything. So I think they keep it up to date. There you go. This is good. This is, yeah, it is up to date because this was kind of recent that the local storage is 10 gigs now. Before it's like 250 megabytes. So it went from like 250 megabytes to 10 gigs. Amazing. Right. You know what? This is super fun. I love it. I could do this all the time. Maybe I'll do more streams like that. Even if I pass it, maybe I'll keep on doing this because this is so good. I love Tutorials Dojo. I really do. This, I mean, I know it's geeky and nerdy, but isn't this fun? I love it. It's just like, it's not just, you know, click on an answer and move on. You're terrible at this. It's like click on an answer, learn more about it, click on links, learn more about it, learn why this was wrong in case you weren't too sure why, even though you kind of had a guess that it wasn't, or maybe you had an instinct that it wasn't. I don't know, I just love it. It's fun. Right. Development, okay, they're all development with AWS services. A developer is building a web application which requires a multi-threaded, event-based key value cache store that will cache results sets from database calls. Blah, lots of words, right? Requires a multi-threaded, event-based key value cache store that will cache results from database. You need to run large nodes with multiple cores for your cache layer, and it should scale up or down as the demand on your system increases and decreases. Which of the following is the most suitable device that you use? Suitable is not the greatest word when they use that. It's hard to latch on to something, right? Like I said, the pattern should be, we find what is the main thing that needs to happen here, that I need to focus on, and then just narrow down the possibilities. But suitable is kind of, So when I read suitable, what I read mentally is tick boxes. How many, which one of these ticks all the functional boxes, right? Don't know, not necessarily about most cost effective, not necessarily about performance, not necessarily about, well, security should always be, first and foremost, but flexibility as well. But in terms of, it needs to do that, it needs to do that, it needs to do that. Tick, tick, tick. This one has the most ticks. That's the one. That's the way I read suitable. So we need something to go. And this is the way I revise quickly in my brain, because also you're on a timer, right? So you can also spend loads of time on each question like I'm doing. So I go back and go, okay, suitable. What ticks boxes? What are the boxes to tick? Multi-threaded, event-based, key value, cache, database. Okay, large nodes, multiple cores, cache layer. Okay, so Greengrass, no, that's IoT stuff. CloudFront, no, CloudFront's not for caching, it's for distributing your content globally closer to your users, so they don't have to go all the way to the servers and back like a website, right? So yes, I mean, there is caching, and CloudFront actually, as of reInvent last year, reInvent's the big AWS event, there is a CloudFront database now launched. So that you can use, like, it's key value pair and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool, but it's not for this. So my guess here will be Redis. Ooh, I am doubting myself, to be honest, but it should be. Oh, memcached. I got half right. Oh well, and of course, it's like I said before, two answers that are similar, so it must be one of them, right? Why memcached? Redis and memcached are popular open source in-memory data stores. Although they are both easy to use and offer high performance, there are important differences to consider when choosing an engine. Memcached is designed for simplicity, while Redis offers a rich set of features that make it effective for a wide range of use cases. Yeah. In this scenario, Redis can provide a much more durable and powerful cache layer to the prototype distributed system. However, you should take note of one keyword in the requirement: multi-threaded. Oh. In terms of commands execution, see, I love Tutorials Dojo. This is awesome. In terms of commands execution, Redis is mostly a single-threaded server. It is not designed to benefit from multiple CPU cores like memcached. However, you can launch several Redis instances to scale out on several cores if needed. I did not know this. This is awesome. See, I would give a like if I could. Memcached is a more suitable choice since the scenario specifies that the system will run large nodes with multiple cores or threads, which memcached can adequately provide. That's awesome. I'll never forget this now. You can choose memcached over Redis if you have the following requirements. You need the simplest model possible. You need to run large nodes with multiple cores or threads. You need the ability to scale out and in, adding and removing nodes as demand on your system increases and decreases. Yeah, but you can scale with Redis. Well, you need to cache objects such as database. You can, well, okay, let's look at what it says. Sub-millisecond latency, yes. Developer ease of use, yes for both. Data partitioning, yes. Support for broad set of programming languages, yes. Advanced data structures, yes. Multi-threaded, oh, yes, but no for memcached. Yeah, of course. Memcached is always simple objects. Multi-threaded architecture, yes. It's a no for Redis. Didn't know that. Snapshots, yes. Replication, yes. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Lua scripting, bleh. Well, whatever. It's a yes, yeah. The other thing to keep in mind about Redis, as you may know, or may not know, is that Redis has gone private. It's not open source anymore. It's gone closed source and charging for the use of Redis. So there are various things happening. AWS is working on something as well. I think it is public knowledge. I can't remember, so I'm not going to say it. But yeah, there is something open source being worked on as well. And yeah, so actually, if I was to recommend somebody as a consultant today, I wouldn't actually recommend Redis right now until things have resolved and got a little bit more stable, because the communities are not happy with Redis right now, the way it has gone private source. It's not an opinion. I could have a debate, I could have a discussion, I could do a panel. I do panels in conferences and stuff out there a lot as part of what I do. And I have already done a panel, joined a panel on this one. When was it? Last year, I think. But without going into that here, I'm just saying, yeah, memcache is actually a really good option. But there are all these options with Redis. Now, the multi-thread architecture, I wasn't aware about not multi-threading like specifically, but it's good. Like Tutorials Dojo here explained it anyway. You can do it, you can take advantage of it, but the thing is you have to spawn several Redis instances instead of one instance dealing with the multi-threading or with the multi-core situation. So I didn't know that. Okay. There you go. It's got documentation from AWS. It's got actually a document from AWS on comparison. Oh, that's where you took that table from. Okay, cool. So yeah, this is really cool. So since memcache is multi-threaded, it can make use of multiple processing cores. Yeah, that's cool. Right. So, oh, it's got more stuff here, even from Tutorials Dojo. I think that's that table there, maybe. So you can bookmark, really cool. Another cheat sheet, really cool. Right. Let's do one more, maybe, or maybe two, I don't know. Troubleshooting and optimization. A developer is managing a distributed system that consists of an application load balancer, an SQS queue, and an auto-scaling group of EC2 instances. The system has been integrated with CloudFront to better serve clients worldwide. To enhance the security of the in-flight data, the developer was instructed to establish an end-to-end SSL connection between the origin and end users, which two will allow the developer to meet this requirement using CloudFront. Okay, select two. They remind you twice. Okay, so what do we need to do? Recap in my head. I always do that before reading the answers. It's a developer. He needs to, he's got an application load balancer, SQS, and EC2 instances reading from that queue. It's kind of what I just talked about it in the other question, right? So he takes a message and he runs through the code and then either done with the message or, puts it back or puts on that letter queue. And there's an auto-scaling group. So, if there's loads of people, then it can scale up, spawn more servers to process that, and then shrink again if you don't need them anymore. And what they need to do is make sure that there is SSL connection end-to-end. So that's an important keyword. End-to-end SSL connection between origin and end users. Origin meaning the server, CloudFront is in the middle, and then end users, is where it comes from. Okay. So configure our application load balancer to only allow traffic on port 443 using SSL certificate from AWS config. Well, that's complete nonsense. AWS config has nothing to do with SSL certification. AWS config is a service where you can have, when it's like an observability thing, it will keep a watch on what's happening on your AWS services that you configure and notify you of stuff. So nothing to do with that. Configure the viewer protocol policy to use HTTPS only. Yes, I will say that's one of them. Can explain in a second. Associate a web echo using ACL, echo, whatever, however you pronounce it, using AWS Web Firewall, WAF, with your CloudFront distribution. No, WAF has nothing to do with, I mean, it does, because it's a firewall, but not in terms of like configuration of SSL, right? More like checking things and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's a firewall, it's a web application firewall, even more specifically. So it's a service that used to verify against web exploits, you know, cross-site scripting or whatever, you know, things like this. So it's to catch those things. And of course, there will be scenarios there to do with TLS, SSL, but it's not meant for configuration, so no. Configure the origin protocol policy to use HTTPS only, yes. And set up an origin access control. No, that's for Amazon S3 integration. Okay, so I think it's these two. Let me check and then I'll explain, because I don't want to explain wrong things if I'm wrong. Yes, confidence meter, go up again. So yeah, definitely, I'm going to try to have that tomorrow. I'm going to figure out how I can do it. So yes, CloudFront is something that sits in the middle between users and your servers, right? Say a web application server, right? Serving a website, much like Tutorials Dojo. So you have 2 points of connection here. You have the users to CloudFront, CloudFront to server, right? They're different tunnels, if you will, different paths. So viewer protocol policy, it's what policy are we going to have of communication between the users? Just seeing that my hand fits in the little window here showing my face. So in between the users and the CloudFront, right? And then the origin, this one, origin policy, protocol policy, it's what is the policy of communication between CloudFront and the server, right? So that's why it's just setting both of them to HTTPS to make sure, and then CloudFront will take care of doing that, because it's not the same TLS, by the way, it's not the same certificate. So CloudFront will take care of doing all of that for you, right? So understated how much work CloudFront is doing for you. So CloudFront is gonna go, okay, so users must have encrypted traffic. They send me HTTPS, I'll resolve that, right? So this is resolved right here on the CloudFront level. And now I'm gonna start another TLS tunnel or SSL, whatever, with the servers. I'm going to encrypt it, send it to them. Server sends me back, I decrypt it, encrypt it with the user one, send it to user. So you do all that for you. Origin Access Control, OAC, it's an integration with Amazon S3 specifically, right? Nothing else. And yes, it is like to configure, you know, that that kind of policy of how you're going to communicate securely with S3 or whatever. But I actually think it's a terrible name. I always thought this is a terrible, terrible name. It should be Amazon S3 something, you know, policy or access control, whatever. But yeah, it's called Origin Access Control, but it's only for S3, unless I'm wrong. Well, let's see. For web distributions, you can configure CloudFront to require that viewers use HTTPS to request your objects. So connections are encrypted when CloudFront communicates with viewers. You can also configure CloudFront to use HTTPS to get objects from your origin. So connections are encrypted when CloudFront communicates with your origin. Yeah. If you configure CloudFront to require HTTPS, both to communicate with viewers and to communicate with your origin, here's what happens when CloudFront, it's gonna go into it, right? The process works basically the same way, whether your origin is an Amazon S3 bucket or a custom origin such as an HTTPS server, right? A viewer submits HTTPS requests to CloudFront. There's some SSL TLS negotiation here between the viewer and CloudFront. In the end, the viewer submits the request in an encrypted format. If the object in the CloudFront Edge cache CloudFront, if the object is in the CloudFront edge cache, CloudFront encrypts the response and returns it to the viewer, and the viewer decrypts it. I feel like I could, this is when I could pull out my whiteboarding. I used that in another stream when I was streaming on Twitch, but whatever. Maybe what I'll do is I'll stop at this question, then we'll revisit this question tomorrow, and then I'll whiteboard a little bit. Because this is a lot to take in if you don't know what I'm talking about here, if you're not familiar with CloudFront or not too familiar with SSL. If the object's not in the CloudFront cache, if the object is in the CloudFront edge cache, CloudFront encrypts the response and returns it to the viewer, and the viewer decrypts it. Easy. If the object is not in the cache, CloudFront performs SSL TLS negotiation with your origin. When the negotiation is complete, forward the request to your origin in an encrypted format. By the way, negotiation is another word that I feel like there's a posh way of saying it and a normal way. Negotiation or negotiation. Your origin, actually that's very British. Like some British people say issue instead of issue. I find it so weird. Your origin decrypts the request. Go on, British curse. Your origin decrypts the request, encrypts the requested object, and returns the object to CloudFront. So that's a lot of words just saying that. So once we set that policy for the origin to always be encrypted, CloudFront and the server is going to negotiate that TLS encrypted tunnel. CloudFront decrypts the response, re-encrypts it, and forwards the object to the viewer. CloudFront also saves the object in the edge cache so that the object is available next time it's requested. The viewer decrypts the response. You can configure one or more cache behaviors in your CloudFront distribution to require HTTPS for communication between viewers and CloudFront. You can also configure one or more cache behaviors to allow both HTTP and HTTPS, so that CloudFront requires HTTPS for some objects, but not for others. That's a good point, right? Because that could be an exam, yeah. So it's not all or nothing. You can actually pick and mix, some of them require encryption, some of them don't. To implement the setup, you have to change the origin protocol policy setting for the applicable origins in your distribution. If you're using the domain name that CloudFront assigned to your distribution, so CloudFront will give you a nice little domain name. Well, not sure it's that nice to be honest, but yeah, like this one. You change the viewer protocol policy setting for one or more cache behaviors to request HTTPS communication. Blah! So this is saying like, you're gonna get a domain name, when CloudFront assigns your distribution or starts distributing it to the Cloud Edge things. And then it can change the viewer protocol policy, so that one that's determining what is the policy between CloudFront and the users, to then have different cache behaviors for HTTPS or HTTP, depending on what's super secure and what's not necessarily, doesn't matter, like a contact us page or about us page, who cares, right? Maybe, I don't know. With this configuration, CloudFront provides the SSL TLS certificate. Hence, the correct answer are configure the origin protocol policy to use HTTPS only and configure the viewer protocol policy to use HTTPS only. The option that says configure ALB, application load balancer, to only allow traffic on port 443 using SSL certificate from AWS config is incorrect because you can't store certificate in AWS config. Exactly. The option that says set up an origin access control OAC setting is incorrect because this CloudFront feature only allows you to secure S3 origins. That's what I said. By granting access to S3 buckets for designated CloudFront distributions. Confidence meter going up. That's exactly what I said. This method is applicable only to S3 origins and cannot be used to establish end-to-end SSL connection to other origins. And the option that says associate a web echo using WAF with your CloudFront distribution is incorrect because WAF is primarily used to protect your web applications from common web exploits that could affect application availability, compromise security, or consume excessive resources. Yes. This will not allow you to establish an SSL connection between your origin clients. Exactly. Lots of links here to study if you fancy it. And then cheat sheet for CloudFront. Let's have a quick look at this cheat sheet. Cool, look, it's got diagrams. It's got a bunch of information, links. Wow, it goes on forever. All right, beautiful. You know what? I may not save and go next because I think we'll revisit this tomorrow. if you're watching this later, then if you're interested in more of this, do let me know on the comments. I'm gonna leave this in my channel because I think finally I had a stream that wasn't blurry and awful. Hopefully, I don't know, because nobody was on the chat. So yeah, let me know if you want more of this. Since I only have today and tomorrow to study, I'm gonna come back tomorrow to do more of this. So if you missed today and you catch this later somehow, and you want to ask questions, you know, and just be part of the study group here, then come tomorrow. And hopefully, oh, I was gonna go to karaoke tomorrow. Anyway, if you're watching this at any other time, you may not even know what tomorrow is. Tomorrow may not matter. It's all relative, right? So just stay tuned. I'll post on the community tab here on YouTube. I'll post on my socials, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And just stay tuned. And then please like and subscribe and support me if you want me to continue going. I am working on videos, I promise, but time is a problem to do everything. I also do videos for the AWS channels, you know, the official channels. So it's a lot of content that I have to do. Oh God, I said that with anger. No, I love it. But yeah, it's a lot. So it's hard to kind of keep up a cadence. I'm trying to get into a routine, but also I travel a lot for work to do conferences. I'm in Chicago next week for the Windy, what's it called? Windy City Dev Fest, where I'm doing a talk on the building blocks of generative AI. So I'm based in London, UK, so I have to travel there and then, you know, to other places. So, so yeah, it's kind of hard to be here home and, you know, January 25th, what is this? Expires to work on the content. But if there's any content that you want, you know, watch my other videos. Hopefully you like them. Hopefully you learn something. Leave a comment and let me know what kind of stuff you want to see or on the community tab. And hopefully I'll see you very soon, if not tomorrow, whatever tomorrow may be. Okay, see you next time. Bye. Thanks for joining. See you later. Bye-bye.